In today's video, I'm answering the question, what really is an apartment syndication? Many people have been asking me, how do I buy large apartment communities? And the fact is that a lot of people want to buy large apartment communities, but they either don't have enough capital, enough time, or the expertise to do so. So what I do is I pull these groups of people together to do group investing or a real estate syndication. This is where we combine people with the time, the talents, and the capital to be able to buy these apartment communities that each of us probably couldn't afford on our own. There are usually two roles in an apartment syndication. The first is a sponsor or general partner, which really means the same thing. The second is the investor or limited partner. Again, two terms for the same thing. Let's look at each of these. The first, the sponsor or general partner. What do they do? Well, the first thing they do is they need to find the deal. They need to find the property, they need to negotiate it, get it under contract, and get it for a good price. Second, they need to find the financing. They will be the ones that will sign for the loans. They'll sign up for the personal guarantee on the loans. They will also bring together the group of investors that make up the difference between the loan amount and the purchase amount, plus any renovations or closing costs and so forth. Of course, once the deal is closed, that's just the beginning. The sponsors are the ones who have created a business plan that creates return on the capital for the investors. Usually that involves some amount of renovations or improvements to the property that will ultimately create value. So it's the sponsor's job after the deal is closed to go in and execute that business plan. They need to make sure that the contractors are lined up, that the leasing is done properly at whatever the correct rents are, that tenant changeover happens, all of the day-to-day operations of the property, as well as all of those improvements to the property that are ultimately going to create value. So you can see that the sponsor's job really just begins at the time the property is bought. At that point, they need to make sure all of the plans come together, get executed, and ultimately those investors get their return. Now let's talk about the limited partners or investors. Their only obligation is to place their capital into the deal, the capital that is going to allow the property to be purchased, to be renovated, and to execute the business plan. There is no day-to-day management of the property, no tenant phone calls, no bank reconciliation, no figuring out who's going to do what maintenance when. All of that is the job of the general partners. So as a limited partner, it really is like making an investment similar to a stock, where you don't have to do anything to see the fruits of your capital in action. It's really putting your capital to work for you. As a limited partner, you will get the profits of the business. So as the building makes money through leasing and so forth, the general partners will collect those profits and they will distribute them to the limited partners or investors. And the vast majority typically does go back to the investors. Of course, general partners do get compensated for all of the work they're doing. And so you need to look at the specifics of the deal to determine exactly how that gets distributed. But most of the profits do typically go to the limited partners or investors. The other thing as a limited partner that you'll receive is at the end of the year, you'll receive a K-1. A K-1 is a tax statement for owning a business, of which you do own a business in this case as an investor in a real estate syndication. And that K-1 statement will show the money that was made by the property, and you'll use that tax document to fill out your personal tax returns. Now, oftentimes, we won't get into it in detail here, but the K-1 statement will show losses or not nearly the same amount of gains as you've seen for cash distributions. And that's because of some of the great tax benefits of real estate and this thing called depreciation. Again, we won't go through the details here, but depreciation is a legal way that the government allows you to reduce your tax burden because they believe that the properties degrade over time. So even though that's your only real obligations as an investor or limited partner, most syndicators will be providing regular communication updates to you so that you know what's going on with your property. They'll tell you about where they are in the renovation plans. They will tell you about what's happening economically on the property. And to the extent you're interested and want to dive into that, you certainly can through those regular updates. And really good syndicators also make sure that they are available to talk with you, answer your questions, hear from you and your thoughts. And so although you don't have to do any work, you certainly have an opportunity to see and learn and track your investment very closely. Now that you understand the basics of what a real estate syndication is, be sure to check out the other videos in this series where we talk about what investors' two biggest fears are of joining a real estate syndication and all the paperwork and legal mechanisms that make it happen.